A hidden world lies beneath the Amazon canopy. For centuries, the dense rainforest guarded its greatest secret, a lost chapter of human history, invisible to explorers on the ground. Now, a revolutionary laser technology is revealing everything we got wrong. By the end of this, you will understand how a tool called LiDAR is fundamentally rewriting the story of the Americas, proving complex civilizations flourished there 1,000 years ago. We will see how entire cities designed with medieval-level sophistication have been mapped from the air, their vast earthworks and roads hidden under a blanket of trees. How did societies of such scale vanish so completely, and what can their engineered landscapes teach us today? What does it mean to discover that our oldest assumptions about the wilderness were an illusion? This perception of a virgin wilderness was not born from malice, but from a fundamental limitation of perspective. From the deck of a riverboat or hacking through the undergrowth on foot, the forest presented a uniform wall of green. The explorers of past centuries saw no pyramids of stone, no sprawling plazas of cut granite like those in Mesoamerica or the Andes. To their eyes, the evidence simply was not there. The logical conclusion, drawn by generations of scholars, was the empty Amazon theory. It proposed that the environment was too harsh, the soils too poor, to ever support large, settled populations. The rainforest, they believed, had always been a green desert, home only to scattered, small-scale groups living in harmony with, but never truly shaping, their world. This academic consensus painted a picture of a continent where civilization blossomed elsewhere, leaving the Amazon basin as a timeless, primordial backwater. Yet, woven through this scientific narrative were other, far older stories. The oral histories of many indigenous communities spoke of a different past. They told of ancestors who moved great amounts of earth, who built monumental mounds and long, straight causeways, who cultivated vast, productive gardens. For a long time, these accounts were politely set aside by mainstream academia, categorized as symbolic myth rather than historical record. The disconnect was absolute. On one side, a scientific theory based on observable but incomplete evidence. On the other, a living memory passed down through generations, speaking of a landscape profoundly shaped by human hands. This was the core of the Amazon's enduring enigma, a mystery locked not just in the soil, but in the clash between two ways of knowing. The truth was waiting beneath the canopy, invisible to the human eye, waiting for a tool that could see the forest for the trees. The key to unlocking this mystery was not found by looking closer, but by looking differently. The breakthrough arrived from the sky in the form of a silent, humming aircraft carrying a technology called LiDAR. This stands for light detection and ranging, and its principle is elegantly simple. It fires rapid pulses of laser light toward the ground from a plane or helicopter. Each pulse travels down, hits something, a leaf, a branch, the earth itself, and bounces back to a sensor. By measuring the exact time it takes for that light to return, a computer can calculate a precise distance. Now, fire millions upon millions of these pulses every second as you fly over a landscape, and you begin to collect a breathtakingly detailed cloud of individual points, each one a three-dimensional coordinate in space. The magic for archaeology happens in the processing. Software can filter out all the points that hit vegetation, the canopy, and the understory, stripping them away like peeling back a layer. What remains is a pristine, high-resolution digital model of the bare earth beneath the forest, a landscape we have never seen. This tool, originally used for mapping coastlines and managing timber, became an X-ray vision for lost worlds. While a ground team might spend years painstakingly surveying a single ancient site, battling thick vines and limited sightlines, A LiDAR-equipped aircraft could map hundreds of square kilometers in a matter of days, revealing the subtle, human-shaped contours of the terrain with astonishing clarity. The search was no longer a hopeful guess in the dark. It became a systematic revelation, turning the entire Amazon into an open book waiting to be read. And the first pages it revealed were utterly transformative. The first undeniable proof came not from the deep jungle, but from a vast, watery plain in Bolivia. The Llanos de Mojos is a sprawling savanna that floods for months each year, a landscape that seemed, to outsiders, inhospitable for large-scale settlement. Yet from the air, hints of something extraordinary began to appear. Early aerial photographs revealed faint, ghostly lines etched into the earth, geometric shapes that nature does not typically draw. These tantalizing clues demanded a closer look, and when LiDAR was finally deployed over this region, the data revealed a masterpiece of ancient engineering. The forest canopy was peeled back digitally to expose a lost civilization's blueprint. What emerged was a staggering network of human intention. Causeways, raised high above the seasonal floods, ran perfectly straight for distances of over 30 miles, connecting communities across the wetlands. There were precisely arranged clusters of raised agricultural fields, vast mounds that served as platforms for homes and ceremonies, and an intricate web of canals and reservoirs designed to manage the relentless water. This was not a collection of random villages. This was the signature of a coordinated, sophisticated society that understood hydrology, astronomy, and large-scale project management. They flourished for nearly 1,000 years, from roughly 500 to 1400 AD. To build and maintain such a landscape required a population that researchers now believe could have reached into the millions. This was the first major, irrefutable evidence that the Amazon basin was not a wilderness but a garden. It was a heavily managed, consciously engineered world. The Bolivian discovery was monumental, but it was merely the opening chapter. If societies of this scale could thrive in the challenging floodplains, what might lie hidden in the heart of the densest rainforest itself? The next LiDAR survey would provide an answer so profound it would shatter the old narrative completely. Deep in the Brazilian state of Acre, the laser's eye found a different kind of signature. Here, beneath the towering canopy, the earth itself had been sculpted into breathtaking geometric forms. These are the Acre Geoglyphs, and they are not built up but carved down. Vast ditches, some over 1,000 feet across, were dug into the clay to form perfect circles, immaculate squares, and complex octagons. They are not subtle. From the ground, you might walk right through one and see only a gentle depression in the forest floor. But from above, with the vegetation digitally erased, their true grandeur is undeniable. They are monumental earthworks of stunning precision, dating from 2,000 years ago up until the 13th century. Their exact purpose remains one of archaeology's compelling puzzles. Were they ceremonial spaces where communities gathered for rituals that connected them to the cosmos? Could they have been defensive enclosures, or perhaps sophisticated astronomical observatories, their shapes aligning with solstice sunrises or the paths of stars? The debate continues, and that mystery is part of their power, but one fact is beyond dispute. These geoglyphs are located in regions that are, today, some of the densest, most untouched rainforest on the planet. This is the crucial point. Their existence proves, beyond any doubt, that complex, organized societies were not just living on the fringes of the Amazon, in the floodplains or the savannas. They were thriving in the very heart of the jungle itself, a place long thought incapable of supporting such endeavors. The scale of labor required is telling. To dig these massive trenches, moving immense volumes of earth with simple tools, required a coordinated, sedentary population. It speaks of social hierarchy, of shared purpose, and of a deep, sophisticated understanding of geometry and landscape engineering. These silent shapes are a language written in soil, a testament to a people who saw the forest not as an obstacle, but as a home to be shaped according to a profound and still partially hidden cultural vision. They whisper of gatherings under the canopy, of ceremonies that bound community to land, of a knowledge system we are only beginning to decode. Yet, as awe-inspiring as these ceremonial earthworks are, they prompt a more practical question. If these societies had the organization to build such monuments, where did the builders live? The geoglyphs suggest a population, but they do not show us their daily lives. The search was now for something even more elusive, the beating heart of these lost civilizations, their cities. The question of where these builders lived has now been answered with breathtaking clarity. Recent LiDAR surveys in the Brazilian Amazon have unveiled not just isolated villages, but entire lost urban networks, a continuous landscape of settlement that rewrites every textbook. The lasers revealed something astonishing beneath the canopy of the Upper Tapajos Basin, a sprawling, interconnected system of garden cities. The imagery shows densely packed clusters of residential platforms and communal plazas, all linked by an extensive grid of straight, raised causeways that stretch for miles across the forest floor. These were not mere paths. They were elevated highways engineered to keep people dry and connected during the rainy seasons, binding communities together into a single, vast social organism. Surrounding these residential hubs were clear signs of intensive, sophisticated land management, vast areas of terraced agricultural fields, and intricate networks of ponds that likely served as fish farms. This was a fully integrated system where homes, food production, and ceremony existed in a carefully balanced relationship with the surrounding forest. The layout displays a level of urban planning that is unmistakable. Archaeologists can identify distinct zones, central ceremonial complexes with monumental architecture, residential districts organized around smaller plazas, and what appear to be strategically placed defensive earthworks. At the heart of some of these complexes, like those linked to the Kasarab culture, stand pyramidal mounds over 20 meters tall, rivaling the scale of ceremonial structures from other ancient civilizations. This evidence points to a revolutionary societal model known as low-density urbanism. Picture not a dense, walled metropolis of stone, but a sprawling, green megacity. Imagine a landscape where neighborhoods were nestled in clearings amid cultivated orchards and managed waterways, all connected by those straight causeways. It was a city woven into the fabric of the forest itself, a sustainable form of urban living on a scale previously unimagined for the Amazon. This discovery does more than just add new sites to a map. It fundamentally challenges our very definitions of a city and of civilization. For centuries, the Western model of civilization has been tied to concentrations of stone, to pyramids and palaces and crowded streets. The Amazon reveals a different path, a civilization built not by conquering nature, but by engineering a profoundly symbiotic relationship with it. Here, the monument was not a single temple, but the entire managed landscape. The greatest achievement was not a skyline, but a system. This revelation forces us to ask, what other forms of complex society have we missed because we were looking for the wrong kind of ruins? The sheer scale of these engineered landscapes points to a society of immense organizational power. To move mountains of earth for causeways, to dig vast geometric enclosures, and to reshape entire watersheds required more than just scattered villages working in isolation. It demanded coordination, leadership, and a shared vision executed across generations. So how did these Amazonian societies, spread over thousands of square miles, possibly organize themselves without the centralized, top-down kingdoms we associate with ancient Egypt or Rome? The answer may lie in a different, more fluid model of social complexity. Archaeologists now suggest these were likely hierarchical chiefdoms or even small-scale states, but ones uniquely adapted to their environment. Power was probably based on a combination of spiritual authority, kinship ties, and control over resources, not just military force. A charismatic leader, perhaps seen as a mediator with the spirit world, could mobilize labor for monumental projects that benefited the entire community, like building a causeway that connected distant settlements or a reservoir that ensured food security. The construction of the great ceremonial mounds and geoglyphs themselves would have served to reinforce this social order, creating spaces for rituals that united people under a common identity and cosmology. This was a collective enterprise. The very layout of the low-density cities, with their interconnected plazas and roads, suggests a society where different groups or clans maintained their own neighborhoods but were bound together through shared infrastructure and ceremony. It was a civilization built on consensus and collective benefit, engineered not for conquest but for sustainability and resilience within the magnificent, demanding cradle of the rainforest. Their greatest monument was a functioning, productive world. Yet this revelation about their social structure leads to an even more profound and haunting question. If these societies were so widespread, so sophisticated, and so deeply integrated into the land, what could have possibly caused them to vanish, leaving their cities to be swallowed by the very forest they had so expertly managed? The silent causeways and geometric earthworks tell a story of more than just engineering. They are the physical imprint of a complex social world. To orchestrate labor on such a scale, to design and maintain these landscapes over centuries, required a society with clear roles and shared purpose. We are likely looking at societies led by individuals or councils who could command both respect and manpower, perhaps seen as spiritual intermediaries or shrewd managers of resources. Specialists would have emerged, not just engineers who understood hydrology and geometry, but also artisans, traders, and organizers who kept the system functioning. The grand ceremonial mounds and plazas were the glue that held this all together. These were spaces where communities gathered, not just to live, but to affirm their shared identity through ritual and celebration. A cosmology, a way of understanding humanity's place in the universe, was literally built into the landscape, with structures and roads potentially aligned to celestial events. This shared belief system provided the unifying force that turned a collection of settlements into a civilization. This cultural tapestry was woven together by threads of exchange. While we find no written ledgers, the archaeological record speaks of vibrant trade. Distinctive styles of pottery, precious stones, and other materials have been found far from their points of origin. A beautifully crafted ceramic vessel from one garden city might appear in a ceremonial context in another, hundreds of miles away. These networks of exchange did more than move goods. They moved ideas, technologies, and artistic styles, creating a cultural conversation across the vastness of the rainforest. It was a connected world. In many ways, the social and cultural achievements of these Amazonian societies during their peak, from roughly 500 to 1400 AD, paralleled the complexity of contemporaneous societies in medieval Europe. While knights built castles and monks copied manuscripts in stone monasteries, Amazonian engineers were raising causeways and sculpting geoglyphs, their leaders orchestrating a different kind of kingdom, one defined by its harmonious and prolific relationship with the living forest. Their legacy is not inscribed on parchment, but on the very skin of the earth, a monumental text of collective effort and profound belief. This makes their disappearance all the more profound and puzzling. If they were so numerous, so well organized, and so deeply rooted in a landscape they had mastered, what force could have possibly undone their world? The silence that followed their golden age is perhaps the most haunting part of the story. By the time the first European ships appeared on the distant horizon in the 16th century, the great causeways were already quiet. The ceremonial mounds stood empty, The vast garden cities, once pulsing with life, were being steadily enveloped by roots and vines. What remained were smaller, fragmented communities, the descendants of a world that had already passed. LiDAR gives us the stunning blueprint of these societies, but it cannot tell us exactly why they fell. The evidence points not to a single cataclysm, but to a perfect storm of pressures that overwhelmed a civilization in balance. The most widely accepted theory is as tragic as it is simple: a biological accident of global proportions. When Europeans made contact with the Americas, they brought with them a suite of old-world diseases for which indigenous peoples had no natural immunity. Viruses like smallpox, influenza, and measles are thought to have traveled far ahead of the explorers themselves, carried along indigenous trade networks that once connected the continent. These invisible messengers would have arrived in the Amazonian heartland years, perhaps decades, before any European ever set foot there. The result was catastrophic. Imagine a society where 90% of the population, perhaps more, succumbs to illness within a generation. The knowledge holders, the engineers, the leaders, the farmers, all gone. A social order built on collective labor and shared ritual cannot survive such a rupture. With no one to maintain them, the canals silted up, the raised fields were abandoned. The forest, always waiting at the edges, began its relentless reclamation. Within a century or two, the meticulously managed landscape reverted to wilderness, its human origins fading into legend. Other factors likely played a role as well. Climate data suggests periods of prolonged drought or unusual flooding may have strained their sophisticated hydrological systems. There is also the possibility of internal social strife, as a shrinking population struggled for dwindling resources. But the scale and speed of the transformation points overwhelmingly to a profound demographic collapse. It was one of the greatest losses of human life and culture in history. An entire world of knowledge and achievement simply erased from view, leaving behind only those subtle shapes in the earth. This monumental loss, however, is not the end of the story. It leads us directly to a vital, living connection in the present day, a thread of continuity that the lasers alone could never reveal. But the story does not end with their passing. The most profound connection revealed by this laser light is not just to an ancient past but to a vibrant present. For the indigenous peoples of the Amazon today, these aerial discoveries are not a revelation of something foreign, but a powerful affirmation of something they have always known. The geometric earthworks and sprawling garden cities mapped by LiDAR resonate deeply with their own oral histories. Stories passed down for generations that speak of ancestral origins, of great builders, and of a landscape intentionally shaped by human hands. The scientific data is now catching up to living memory. It validates a cultural continuity that stretches back over 1,000 years. Consider the phenomenon of terra preta, the rich, dark earth found in patches throughout the forest. For centuries, scientists puzzled over these fertile islands in otherwise nutrient-poor soil. We now understand this was no accident of nature. It is anthropogenic, literally meaning human-made. It is the result of centuries of deliberate soil enrichment by ancient communities, a sophisticated recipe of charcoal, compost, and pottery shards that created lasting fertility. Today, many indigenous groups continue to cultivate and utilize these very same patches. Their agricultural practices are direct inheritance from the landscape engineers of the past. Similarly, the forest itself holds living echoes. What appears to an outsider as untouched wilderness is often a cultivated forest garden, a mosaic of useful trees like Brazil nut and acai palm that were intentionally planted and tended by ancestors. The knowledge of earthworking, of reading the subtle contours of the land, persists in community practices. For these contemporary guardians of the forest, LiDAR is not uncovering a lost civilization separate from them. It is providing a new kind of documentation, a technological witness to the profound depth of their heritage. It bridges a gap that has existed for too long, connecting the dots between archaeological evidence and living culture. This is not just about rewriting history books, it is about restoring a narrative. It grants scientific credence to knowledge systems that were long marginalized, recognizing that the Amazon we see today is not a pristine wilderness, but a living testament to a long and ongoing partnership between people and place. The laser reveals the blueprint, but the living culture holds the meaning. To truly grasp the scale of this discovery, we must look closer at the remarkable process that makes it all possible. The true power of LiDAR lies in the breathtaking precision of its process. Think of it as a form of high-speed, airborne echolocation. A specialized survey plane flies meticulously back and forth over a designated area, like mowing a lawn from the sky. Mounted on its underside is the scanner, a device that emits an astonishing barrage of invisible laser pulses, hundreds of thousands every single second. Each pulse is a tiny packet of light racing toward the Earth. Now, here is where the magic happens in layers. When that laser light hits the canopy, most of it bounces off the first thing it touches, the very top of a leaf. That gives us the height of the forest, but a fraction of that light keeps going, slipping through gaps in the foliage, hitting branches further down, vines, and finally, for a lucky few pulses, the soil itself. Each of these encounters sends a faint echo of light back up to the sensor. By measuring the exact nanosecond it takes for each echo to return, the system can calculate a distance with incredible accuracy. After a single flight, you are left with something extraordinary, a point cloud. This is a vast digital swarm of billions of individual dots, each one a precise three-dimensional coordinate in space, a record of exactly where the laser light touched something. It is a ghostly, hyper-detailed imprint of the entire landscape, from the highest treetop to the deepest forest floor. But for archaeologists, the treasure is buried in that data. They use sophisticated software as a digital filter, instructing it to strip away all the points that bounced off vegetation. What remains are the last returns, the pulses that finally reach the ground. When you remove the green veil, you are left with a pristine, millimeter-accurate model of the bare earth, a landscape no human eye has seen for centuries. On this digital canvas, the hand of past civilizations becomes startlingly clear. A subtle, uniform rise in the terrain transforms into the foundation of a long house. A gentle, linear depression reveals itself as a ceremonial ditch. A perfectly straight ridge running for miles is unmistakably a raised causeway. It is archaeology without a shovel, a revelation without disturbance. This technology allows researchers to see the forest not for its trees, but for its history, translating the silent language of the soil into a map of lost worlds. Yet, for all its transformative power, this eye in the sky comes with significant limitations. The aircraft, the advanced equipment, and the complex data processing require substantial funding, often putting such surveys out of reach for many research teams. Furthermore, the very density of the Amazon canopy can be a challenge, as exceptionally thick foliage can sometimes prevent enough laser pulses from reaching the ground to create a clear picture. And then there is the human element, the crucial next step after the digital model is complete. The laser can show you a shape, but it cannot tell you its story. That requires boots on the ground, a team of archaeologists venturing into the jungle to find the very features the map revealed, to touch the earthworks, and to seek the physical evidence that will tell us who built them and why. The brilliant digital maps created by LiDAR are only the beginning of the story. Turning those ghostly images on a screen into a true understanding of the past requires a far more difficult and human journey. Getting the lasers into the sky over the Amazon is itself a feat of modern logistics and diplomacy. The technology is not cheap. Specialized survey aircraft must be chartered, fitted with million-dollar scanners and flown by expert pilots who can navigate the complex airspace and often unpredictable weather of the rainforest. The fuel, the insurance, the technical crew, it all adds up to a budget that can reach into the hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single survey. This financial hurdle means that many promising areas remain unmapped, waiting for funding and opportunity. But money is just one part of the equation. Before a single flight can take off, researchers must navigate a web of permits and permissions from national and regional governments, a process that requires patience, respect, and a clear demonstration of benefit. Most critically, this work cannot proceed without the free, prior, and informed consent of the indigenous communities whose ancestral lands are being studied. This is not a bureaucratic box to check. It is a fundamental ethical imperative. The history that LiDAR reveals is ultimately their history. For too long, archaeology in many parts of the world operated under a model now critically described as parachute science. Teams would fly in, collect artifacts and data, and fly out to publish their findings abroad, with little lasting benefit or deep collaboration with the people connected to the sites. This approach is increasingly and rightly seen as unacceptable. Responsible research today is built on partnership. It means working with local and indigenous researchers as equal colleagues, not just as guides or laborers. It involves sharing data, co-authoring studies, and ensuring that the knowledge gained also serves the goals and needs of the community, whether that is supporting land rights claims, informing cultural education, or aiding in sustainable forest management. There is another, more immediate danger that comes with discovery: publishing highly detailed maps that pinpoint the location of ancient earthworks can, unintentionally, serve as a treasure map for looters seeking artifacts to sell on the black market. It can also draw unsustainable tourism or even encourage encroachment by outsiders. Navigating this tension between the global right to knowledge and the local right to protection is a delicate balance. Many researchers now choose to share generalized findings publicly while keeping precise coordinates confidential, working with communities and authorities to develop protection plans. The ethical landscape is as dense and complex as the rainforest itself. Success is measured not just in peer-reviewed papers, but in strengthened relationships and shared stewardship. This collaborative foundation is what makes the next phase possible, when scientists finally leave the digital realm and step into the living green world the lasers have outlined. A LiDAR map is not a self-explanatory picture. It is a vast, silent puzzle waiting for a human mind to solve it. The raw data, that breathtaking point cloud, is just the beginning. To read the story written in the soil, archaeologists turn to a powerful digital toolkit centered on geographic information systems software. Think of this as the detective's magnifying glass for an entire landscape. Within this software, the digital terrain model can be manipulated, analyzed, and viewed in ways that make the invisible suddenly obvious. One of the most common techniques is applying a hillshade model. This simulates sunlight falling across the landscape from a chosen angle, casting long, dramatic shadows that highlight even the faintest variations in elevation. A gentle, uniform ridge that might look like a natural ripple from one angle can, with the simulated light shifted, reveal itself as the perfectly straight, engineered embankment of an ancient road. Similarly, slope analysis can color-code the terrain based on how steep it is, instantly isolating flat platforms ideal for building, or the sharp, artificial edges of a dug ditch from the more gradual slopes of natural hills. The human eye, trained by experience, then scans these enhanced models for specific patterns. It searches for the language of past civilizations. Long, unbroken straight lines cutting across the natural contours are almost always causeways or roads. Concentric circles or rectangles often outline ceremonial plazas or the foundations of large communal houses. Clusters of small, uniform mounds signal residential areas, a neighborhood of raised platforms that kept homes dry. And those breathtaking geometric shapes, circles and squares etched into the earth, stand out with stark clarity against the organic randomness of the forest floor. Each of these digital signatures is a hypothesis, a promising dot on the map, but a dot is not yet history. This is where the high-tech survey meets the timeless, gritty reality of fieldwork in a process called ground truthing. Archaeologists must take these coordinates into the jungle itself, navigating through dense undergrowth to find the precise spot the lasers identified. The goal is to confirm the feature's human origin and to search for the physical evidence that gives it context. They might clear a small section of a mound to examine the soil layers, proving it was built up deliberately. They will scan the ground for fragments of pottery, tools, or charcoal. These artifacts are the true treasure, for they can be scientifically dated, telling us not just what was built but when. They can reveal styles of craftsmanship that link a site to a known culture, hinting at trade networks or artistic traditions. This painstaking process of connecting digital dots to physical proof is what transforms mysterious pixels into a coherent historical narrative. It is a dialogue between the sky and the soil, between algorithmic precision and human intuition. The lasers show us the grand architecture of a civilization, the sweeping lines of its public works. But the fragments of a cooking pot, the chips from a stone axe found on a platform, these whisper of the individuals who lived there. They hint at daily routines, at meals shared, at tools crafted for shaping both wood and world. So what do these dots ultimately tell us about daily life? They tell us of a society that moved through a planned and managed landscape. They suggest a morning commute not through crowded streets, but along clean, raised causeways from a residential platform to cultivated fields or a central plaza. They speak of community gatherings in those geometrically perfect spaces, of a life intimately connected to both the bounty of the forest and the order imposed upon it. The digital map gives us the stage. The artifacts found by boot and hand begin to show us the play. These digital blueprints and scattered artifacts allow us to reconstruct the rhythm of a day, a life within that engineered world. From the moment a person awoke, their existence was shaped by the landscape their ancestors had built. Their home was not a hut in a clearing, but a sturdy wooden structure perched atop a carefully constructed earthen platform, high enough to stay dry during the relentless rainy seasons. Stepping outside, they would not face a tangled wall of jungle, but a network of possibilities. Straight, wide causeways, raised like spines above the wetland, stretched into the distance. These were the highways of their world, bustling with purpose. Some travelers carried goods for trade, bundles of pottery or baskets of cultivated fruits, moving between connected settlements. Others might be messengers, relaying news or coordinating communal labor. And on special days, these same roads would fill with the vibrant energy of a procession, entire communities moving in ceremony toward the heart of their social and spiritual world. That destination was often a central plaza, a vast leveled space flanked by towering pyramidal mounds. Here, daily life intersected with the sacred. These plazas were stages for the rituals that bound society together, where stories were told, alliances affirmed, and the cosmos was acknowledged through dance, music, and shared observance. The pyramids themselves, built from countless baskets of earth, were more than just platforms. They were statements of collective identity and enduring faith, physical connections between the community and the realms beyond the forest canopy. After ceremonies, life returned to the practical arts of sustenance. The surrounding landscape was a meticulously managed larder. Families tended to their crops in the rich, dark terra preta soils their own forebears had created and enriched over generations. Nearby, artificial ponds shimmered, likely teeming with fish that were farmed and harvested, providing a reliable source of protein. And beyond the clearings, the forest was not a forbidding wilderness. It was a cultivated garden, a mosaic of trees intentionally planted and nurtured. Stately Brazil nut trees, fruitful acai palms, and medicinal plants all grew in patterns that reflected human choice, not random chance. Every meal, every remedy, every tool crafted from wood or fiber came from this relationship. This was a society that did not simply live in the Amazon. It lived with it, deriving sustenance, medicine, and materials from a cultivated biome they actively sustained. Their world was a symphony of human activity and natural growth, each reinforcing the other. To walk from a residential platform, down a straight causeway, past a productive fish pond, to a ceremonial plaza ringed by useful trees, was to move through a living testament to integration. There was no separation between town and country, between culture and cultivation. It was all one interconnected system. This revised understanding forces a profound reconsideration. For centuries, the very word civilization in the Western mind was synonymous with stone monuments, written records, and dense urban cores. The Amazon presents a parallel achievement of equal sophistication, but expressed in a different language. Here, civilization was measured in the fertility of the soil, the straightness of the road, the bounty of the forest garden, and the collective effort to shape a world in harmony with immense natural forces. Their greatest monument was a way of life, a testament to the fact that human ingenuity can flourish not by dominating nature, but by learning its rhythms and weaving a society directly into its fabric. This revelation does more than add a chapter to history. It challenges the entire narrative of what a complex society can look like, and in doing so, offers a powerful perspective for our own relationship with the natural world. This revelation strikes a final blow to the myth of a pristine wilderness. The iconic Amazon, that vast green symbol of untouched nature, is in many places a landscape of regrowth. For thousands of years, it was not a virgin forest but a managed garden, a series of human-shaped clearings, fields, and orchards. When those societies faded from view, the jungle did not simply remain, it returned. It grew back over the causeways and mounds, reclaiming the spaces that had been so carefully curated. The breathtaking biodiversity we rightly celebrate today may itself be a profound legacy. By creating a mosaic of different habitats, from open plazas and raised fields to managed groves and forest gardens, these ancient societies inadvertently fostered conditions for a wider variety of plant and animal life to thrive. This does not diminish the rainforest's wonder, it deepens it. The Amazon is not just a natural monument, but a cultural one, a living archive of a partnership between people and place that lasted for millennia. This understanding that the forest is fundamentally anthropogenic or human-shaped changes everything about how we approach its future. It shifts the conservation paradigm from one of simply fencing off a supposed wilderness to one of supporting the sustainable practices and deep ecological knowledge that helped create it in the first place. It proves that humans are not inherently a destructive force, but can be a force for profound ecological enrichment. The wisdom embedded in indigenous land management, honed over countless generations, becomes not just cultural heritage, but essential science for the planet's health. This insight bridges the ancient past and the urgent present, making the discoveries of LiDAR not merely academic, but critically practical. So where is this frontier of discovery pushing forward now? The map of ancient Amazonia is being redrawn in real time, not as a completed document, but as a living, breathing work in progress. This is not a story confined to the past, but a discovery happening right now, with new flights taking off and new data streaming in every season. The frontier of exploration is accelerating at a breathtaking pace. Across the vastness of the Amazon basin, from the cloud forests of Colombia and Ecuador to the remote river systems of Peru and the heart of central Brazil, major new LiDAR surveys are systematically scanning the canopy. Each region holds a unique piece of the puzzle, a distinct cultural fingerprint written into the earth. In Brazil's Upper Tapajós Basin, the lasers continue to peel back layers, revealing that the garden city networks we've already glimpsed are even more extensive and interconnected than first thought. Meanwhile, in the Colombian Amazon, researchers are mapping sophisticated pre-Columbian urban centers, their layouts defined by precise geometry and linked by long, straight roads that challenge our very notion of isolation in the rainforest. This monumental effort is increasingly a global collaboration. International consortia and universities are forming vital partnerships with local institutions and indigenous communities, combining technological resources with deep place-based knowledge. This collaborative model is expanding coverage exponentially, turning what was once a slow, patchwork process into a coordinated scientific campaign. Every new flight path charted across the green expanse carries with it a thrilling potential. The next data download could reveal another sprawling lost city, or it might uncover a completely new form of earthwork that redefines our understanding of a region's cultural sequence and development. We are unquestionably in a golden age of discovery for Amazonian archaeology. Yet, for all we have found, the full scale and diversity of pre-Columbian societies in the basin remains profoundly unknown. We have illuminated dazzling fragments of a mosaic, but the complete picture still lies mostly in shadow. The implications of this ongoing revolution, however, stretch far beyond the borders of the rainforest itself. What does it mean for our global understanding of human history to learn that such complex, urban-scale societies thrived in a place we so long considered a historical void? This revelation forces a fundamental recalibration. This is not merely an addition to the history of the Americas, it is a fundamental rewriting of it. For generations, our maps of pre-Columbian civilization featured two bright, concentrated lights: Mesoamerica with its Maya and Aztec, and the Andes with the Inca. Between them, the vast Amazon basin was depicted as a dark, empty space, a blank spot on the cultural map. The laser's eye has now illuminated that darkness, revealing a third, brilliant light of equal importance. The Amazon must now be recognized as one of the world's great independent hearths of civilization, a place where human ingenuity forged a unique and sophisticated path entirely on its own terms. This shatters a long-standing, often unconscious, bias in how we have written global history. The dense rainforest was never a barrier to civilization. It was the very material from which a distinct form of civilization was built. While kingdoms in Europe were clearing forests for castles and cathedrals of stone, societies here were engineering a living, breathing architecture of earth and tree. They were not primitive holdouts in a green desert. They were innovative contemporaries, their achievements unfolding in parallel during what we call the medieval period. Imagine the timeline. While Charlemagne was crowned Holy Roman Emperor in the year 800, Amazonian engineers were completing vast geometric earthworks that aligned with the stars. As the great trading cities of the Silk Road connected Asia, intricate networks of causeways were linking garden cities across the rainforest. This realization inserts a massive, missing chapter into the human story. It tells us that the drive to build complex, coordinated societies is not the property of any one geography or climate, but a universal human potential expressed in wonderfully diverse ways. The Amazonian model, with its low-density urbanism and symbiotic land management, stands as a powerful testament to this diversity. It proves that civilization does not have a single blueprint. We can no longer tell the story of humanity's medieval epoch without including the masters of the tropical lowlands and their monumental, living gardens. Their legacy demands a shift in our perspective, a quiet acknowledgement that some of history's greatest architects left their blueprints not in stone, but in soil and in the very composition of the forest itself. The raw data from these aerial surveys is now breaking out of the laboratory and into the world. In a powerful move toward open science, some research teams are publishing their LiDAR point clouds online, making them freely available to anyone with an internet connection. This act of sharing has sparked a new kind of gold rush, not for treasure but for insight. Across the globe, amateur archaeologists, data enthusiasts, and curious minds are downloading these vast datasets, applying their own analytical skills to spot patterns and features that a single team might have missed. It is a form of digital archaeology that harnesses collective curiosity, turning the global public into a vast, distributed research network. The discoveries are no longer confined to academic journals. They are happening on home computers, in classrooms, and in online forums where citizen scientists compare notes. To make this world even more accessible, developers are creating interactive online platforms and virtual reality experiences. Imagine putting on a headset and suddenly soaring like a bird over the digital twin of a lost Amazonian city. You can glide along the causeways, circle the pyramidal mounds, and appreciate the geometric perfection of the earthworks from angles impossible in the real world. Museums are embracing this too, building immersive exhibits where visitors can walk through projected 3D landscapes, watching as the forest canopy dissolves around them to reveal the ancient world beneath. This wave of public engagement does something vital. It transforms abstract data into a shared experience of wonder. When a person, anywhere in the world, can virtually stand in a plaza built 1,000 years ago, that history ceases to be a distant fact. It becomes a felt connection. This collective awe is more than just educational. It is a foundational tool for preservation. A public that values this heritage is a public that will advocate for its protection. It builds a global constituency for the Amazon's past, reminding us that these are not just remote ruins, but chapters of a human story that belongs to all of us. It turns every interested viewer into a witness to discovery, peering through a digital canopy to share in the moment history is rewritten. Yet, this very power of revelation carries with it a profound and immediate duty. The light that illuminates these lost cities also casts a long shadow, for with discovery comes an urgent and grave responsibility. The very act of revealing these sites now places them in immediate peril. The same dense canopy that protected this heritage for centuries is being stripped away at an alarming rate, not by natural decay, but by human industry. Vast tracts of forest are cleared for industrial-scale agriculture, mining operations, and logging, processes that do more than remove trees, they erase history. In a matter of days, an ancient earthen platform that stood for a millennium can be flattened by a bulldozer to make way for a soybean field. A complex of geometric ditches, a ceremonial puzzle studied for years, can vanish beneath the hooves of cattle on a new ranch. This destruction is not a side effect, it is a total and irreversible loss. These landscapes are non-renewable archives. Once an earthwork is plowed under, the intricate story it holds, the layers of construction and use, is gone forever. It is a library burning down before a single page can be read. The threat is not only from broad clearance but from targeted greed. When the location of a site becomes known, it can attract looters. These individuals descend upon these sacred spaces, digging pits and trenches in search of pottery, carved stones, or any object that can be sold. In the process, they shatter the archaeological context, the precise arrangement of objects that tells us how people lived, what they valued, and how they organized their world. A beautiful vessel pulled from a looter's hole becomes a mere commodity. Its connection to a specific home, a specific ritual, a specific moment in time, severed completely. This is not collection, it is cultural vandalism. In this urgent context, LiDAR transforms from a tool of pure discovery into a vital instrument of rescue archaeology. Deploying these aerial surveys over areas earmarked for development or known to be at high risk becomes a critical race against time. The goal is to create a permanent digital record of what exists, to map and document these cultural landscapes before the physical reality is altered forever. This data serves as an immutable backup, a testament for future generations of what was once there. It can also empower local communities and governments, providing irrefutable evidence of cultural heritage that must be considered in land use planning. The fight to preserve this ancient past is now completely intertwined with the fight to conserve the living Amazon of the present. They are one and the same struggle. Protecting the forest ecosystem inherently protects the archaeological record woven into its soil. Conversely, recognizing the forest as a profound cultural landscape, as a monument to human ingenuity, strengthens the argument for its conservation. This is not just about saving trees, it is about safeguarding a legacy. Every square kilometer of rainforest that remains standing is a square kilometer where undiscovered chapters of the human story remain intact, waiting for the right moment to be read. This pressing reality begs a forward-looking question. As technology continues its relentless advance, what new forms of vision might we develop to see even deeper, not just beneath the canopy, but into the very fabric of these lost worlds? The laser's eye is already evolving into something far more perceptive. While LiDAR has given us the stunning topography of lost worlds, the next generation of remote sensing technologies promises to reveal their color, their chemistry, and even their hidden interiors. Imagine sensors so precise they can map not just a causeway, but the individual post holes where wooden structures once stood. Hyperspectral imaging, a technique that analyzes light far beyond the visible spectrum, could one day fly over the forest and detect subtle changes in soil chemistry from the air. These spectral fingerprints might pinpoint the exact locations of ancient hearths, middens, or agricultural plots, areas of intense human activity invisible to any other method. Meanwhile, agile drones equipped with ground-penetrating radar could hover over a site, sending pulses of energy into the earth to create three-dimensional maps of what lies beneath the surface without ever breaking ground. They might reveal buried foundations, hidden chambers, or the layout of an entire village subterranean footprint. But the true accelerator of discovery will be artificial intelligence. Researchers are now training machine learning algorithms to scan the colossal LiDAR datasets, teaching them to recognize the distinctive signatures of human earthworks. An algorithm can process in minutes what might take a human analyst weeks, flagging potential sites for closer inspection with uncanny speed and consistency. This is not about replacing the archaeologist, but empowering them. The future lies in the integration of all these tools, a holistic remote sensing toolkit that builds a multidimensional portrait of the past. We will move from simply mapping the shape of a civilization to understanding its substance, its economy, and its daily rhythms, all gathered from the sky and soil. This technological leap, however, carries its most profound potential when placed directly in the hands of the communities for whom this history is not an academic pursuit, but a living lineage. The same drones and software that survey from continents away can be operated from a village center, empowering indigenous researchers to document their own ancestral landscapes on their own terms. This shifts the dynamic from one of outside discovery to one of internal stewardship and intellectual sovereignty. The tools of the future are becoming tools of reclamation, allowing communities to author the next chapters in their own story, using the most advanced vision to protect and interpret their deepest past. This partnership is already yielding breathtaking results, reinterpreting landscapes we thought we understood. Take the ancient city of Kotoka, located in Brazil's Xingu region. For decades, archaeologists recognized it as a significant pre-Columbian site, a network of roads and plazas. But it was through deep collaboration with the Kotoka people, descendants of the builders, that the true nature of the place came alive. Where a scientist saw a depression in the earth, a Kuakuro elder might recognize the foundation of a men's house, a central social and ceremonial space. Where LiDAR maps showed a specific arrangement of mounds, community knowledge could explain their connection to clan identities and ancestral stories. The Kuakuro have their own terms for these ancient features, words that carry meanings of social structure and spiritual purpose lost to any outside observer. They can point to certain trees growing in clusters today, species favored for fruit or tools, and explain that these are not random, but the living legacy of their ancestors' forest gardens. This is knowledge integration in its most powerful form. The laser provides the precise physical blueprint, a stunning map of the past. The living cultural memory provides the legend for that map, explaining what each symbol meant in the daily and spiritual life of the people who built it. This transforms a sterile archaeological site into a resonant homeland, its every contour imbued with story and intention. This collaborative model is fundamentally changing who gets to tell the story. Indigenous archaeologists trained in both Western scientific methods and their own cultural frameworks are now leading excavations and authoring studies. They approach a site not as a distant puzzle to be solved, but as a chapter in their family's history. This internal perspective allows for questions an outsider might never think to ask. They might examine pottery designs and see not just artistic style, but clan symbols or representations of mythological beings. They can listen to an oral history about a great flood and cross-reference it with geological data on ancient river shifts, creating a richer, more resilient narrative. This work does more than advance science, it actively heals a historical rift. For generations, academic institutions extracted knowledge and artifacts, often dismissing indigenous oral history as myth. Now that same oral history is being validated as a sophisticated historical record, a parallel archive of immense value. Research projects are increasingly designed with community benefit at their core. This might mean training local youth in drone operation and geographic information systems, creating jobs and building capacity for long-term stewardship. It means ensuring that findings are published in accessible formats and languages, and that decisions about displaying or storing artifacts are made jointly. The goal is a dignified reciprocity where discovery strengthens cultural identity and supports the community's own goals for education, land rights, and cultural continuity. This is the most profound promise of the laser revolution. It is not just revealing lost cities, it is helping to restore a narrative that was fragmented, helping to reconnect people with the monumental achievements of their ancestors. The technology gives us eyes to see the shape of the past, but it is this partnership, this weaving together of digital data and deep memory, that finally allows us to understand its heart. Kotoka stands as a testament to the sheer ambition of its builders. This massive complex in the Bolivian Llanos de Mojos, revealed in stunning detail by LiDAR, was not merely a village, it was a regional capital. The digital model shows a sprawling urban heart covering an area larger than 50 soccer fields, encircled by formidable rings of defensive earthworks. Imagine a series of deep, wide ditches and towering ramparts arranged in concentric circles, creating a layered, protective barrier around the core of the city. At its center, a monumental mound complex rises, a clear focal point for ceremony and power. Radiating out from this stronghold like spokes on a wheel, straight, elevated causeways stretch for miles into the surrounding landscape, connecting Kotoka to a constellation of smaller, subsidiary settlements. This was a hub, a place designed to command and connect. When archaeologists finally reached the site, guided by the laser maps, they found overwhelming confirmation. This was the political and spiritual center of the Kasarab culture, a society that thrived here for nearly 1,000 years, from roughly 500 to 1400 AD. The physical evidence of their labor is almost incomprehensible. To construct the defensive rings, the central pyramids, and the vast network of roads required moving millions upon millions of cubic meters of earth, all by hand, using baskets and simple tools. This was not a project of a single generation, but a sustained, collective endeavor that spanned centuries. Kotoka embodies everything the LiDAR revolution has taught us. It showcases urban complexity on a grand scale, with clear zoning for defense, ceremony, and habitation. Its fortifications speak to a world where conflict or the threat of it was a reality, suggesting these societies had wealth, resources, and rivalries worth protecting. Its radiating causeways prove it was the anchor of a wider regional network, influencing and drawing sustenance from a vast hinterland. This site, once completely hidden, now serves as the definitive poster child for the lost civilizations of the Amazon. If Kotoka was a beating heart, its causeways were the arteries, and the smaller sites they linked to were the vital organs of a living, breathing social body. This concrete evidence of such a sophisticated, organized world, now lying silent beneath the green canopy, forces us to confront a deeper, almost philosophical unease. How could something of this magnitude simply fade from human memory? What does it say about our own civilization that we walked atop these engineered landscapes for centuries and called them wilderness? The discovery does more than fill a blank on a map. It challenges our most basic assumptions about progress, permanence, and our place in nature. The true legacy of these lost cities is not their disappearance, but their enduring existence. For over 1,000 years, these societies perfected the art of living within one of the planet's most demanding environments. They looked at the seasonal floods, the acidic soils, and the dense biomass, and they saw not obstacles but opportunities. Their response was a symphony of innovation. They engineered entire landscapes to be productive, creating fertile black earth where none existed naturally, building fish farms from wetlands, and designing urban networks that flowed with the land rather than fighting against it. This was resilience in its most tangible form, a deep, generational commitment to adapting their world to secure a future. Their story is a powerful reminder that human ingenuity is not just about overcoming nature, but about learning to collaborate with its fundamental rules. Yet this very strength contained a profound vulnerability. Their finely tuned systems, so perfectly adapted to their specific world, were ultimately fragile in the face of a shock from outside their experience. The arrival of old-world illnesses represents a tragic kind of historical irony. A civilization that had mastered its environment for centuries could not defend against an invisible, biological storm it never saw coming. Their collapse underscores a difficult truth about all human societies, no matter how sophisticated. Resilience is not a permanent state, but a continuous process of adaptation, and it can be undone by forces beyond a culture's frame of reference. This duality makes their history intensely relevant to us today. We live in an era of our own global shocks, where climate change and ecological disruption present unprecedented challenges. Studying these Amazonian civilizations is like reading a guidebook from a parallel experiment in sustainable living. Their successes show us that long-term harmony with complex ecosystems is possible, that human settlements can be designed as integrated parts of a living world. Their ultimate fragility, however, serves as a sobering caution. It warns us that no system, no matter how well designed, is immune to catastrophic disruption, especially when that disruption exploits a single, critical weakness. Their experience urges us to build diverse, redundant, and flexible systems, to look for the blind spots in our own global society. What we learn from them is more than archaeological fact. It is a philosophy written in earth and forest. It is the understanding that the greatest monuments are not always meant to last forever in stone. but to sustain life for as long as possible within the living world. This realization brings the story from a distant past into a deeply personal present. It asks us to look at our own surroundings, our own cities and farms, and to wonder what future civilizations might one day see when they peel back the layers we leave behind. The final step is always taken on foot. After the maps are printed and the coordinates are set, a small team shoulders their packs and walks into the green silence. For the lead archaeologist, this journey is the culmination of a career spent questioning the old stories. For years, perhaps decades, they have surveyed similar terrain, their machetes clearing narrow paths through a uniform wall of vegetation. They have documented scattered pottery fragments, noted subtle rises in the land, and felt a persistent intuition that there was more here, a pattern just beyond perception. It is a work of profound patience, often yielding more questions than answers. Then, the LiDAR data arrives. On a screen in a distant lab, a perfect geometric shape emerges from the digital terrain, a circle or a square etched into the earth directly beneath an area they have walked before. The coordinates are sent back to the field. The return trek to that exact spot is charged with a new kind of anticipation. This time, they are not searching blindly. They are walking toward a secret they already know, guided by a view from the heavens. The forest looks the same, a tangle of roots and vines and dappled light. But now, the archaeologist's eyes are tuned to a different frequency. They reach the location, and with careful hands, they begin to clear a small section of leaf litter and soil from what the map says should be the edge of an ancient ditch. The blade of the trowel scrapes gently, and then there it is, a small curved fragment of pottery, its surface etched with a decorative pattern unseen for 800 years, resting precisely on the lip of a man-made depression. In that moment, the digital abstraction becomes tangible history. It is an electric feeling, a jolt of connection that bridges centuries in an instant. It is the validation of a hypothesis, yes, but it is so much more. It is the quiet voice of an individual from a lost world saying, "We were here." This is the human heart of the technological revolution. The lasers provide the vision, but it is the dirt under the fingernails, the shared glance of triumph between tired colleagues, and the profound humility that follows that truly drives discovery. Each shard, each post hole, each charcoal sample is a piece of a grand, global puzzle, a story of human ingenuity we are only beginning to assemble. This sense of wonder, this reverence for the puzzle itself, is what we hope to pass on to you. For every geometric marvel now charted on our maps, 100 more surely wait beneath the unscanned canopy, their stories still silent, their lessons still unlearned. The horizon of the unknown stretches vast and green, inviting the next curious mind to look and to listen. The laser maps are a revelation, but they are also a beautiful kind of provocation. For every stunning answer they provide, a dozen more intricate questions rise from the soil. We can now trace the causeways and measure the mounds, but the voices that once animated these spaces remain just out of earshot. What languages echoed across these plazas, and what stories did they tell about the world? The precise nature of their spiritual beliefs, the specific names of their deities, the full meaning of their ceremonies, these are layers of understanding the laser cannot penetrate. We see the stages for their rituals, but we do not know the scripts. The variations in earthwork, styles from region to region whisper of distinct cultural identities, perhaps different chiefdoms or even small states with their own artistic and architectural dialects. Why did some groups favor perfect circles while others built vast octagons or linear roads? Were these differences in function, in cosmology, or in political tradition? The grand geoglyphs, those breathtaking geometric ditches, stand as the most eloquent enigmas of all. Their scale and precision signal profound importance, but their exact purpose, whether for astronomical observation, communal gathering, or a form of spiritual landscape art, is still a subject of vibrant debate among researchers. Perhaps the most haunting unknown is one of scale. If these garden cities and road networks were so extensive, what was the total human population of the Amazon basin before the year 1492? Estimates vary widely, but some scholars now suggest it could have been in the many millions, a figure that utterly transforms our perception of the pre-Columbian Americas. The nature of their decline, while linked to introduced illness, is also nuanced. Did all communities fade at the same rate, or did some adapt and persist in altered forms for generations? LiDAR has gifted us the monumental skeleton of a lost world, the where and the what in breathtaking detail, but the why, the living pulse of cultural meaning, the fine grain of daily politics, kinship, and belief that requires a different toolkit. This is where the remote sensing revolution hands the baton to a slower, more intimate kind of science. The path forward is a fusion of technologies. Intensive, targeted excavation at the sites LiDAR has identified will seek organic remains, seeds, pollen, and tools that speak to diet, trade, and daily activity. Collaboration with linguistic experts and contemporary indigenous communities can help reconstruct possible language families and cosmological concepts. New scientific techniques like analyzing ancient proteins or environmental DNA preserved in the soil might one day reveal details about the people themselves. Each unanswered question is not an endpoint but a starting line. They are the coordinates for the next generation of explorers, the puzzles that ensure the story of the Amazon is never considered finished. This journey of understanding, of listening to a landscape that has finally begun to speak, has only just begun. Our journey ends with a transformed vision. The green expanse of the Amazon is no longer a wilderness, but a living testament to 1,000 years of human genius. We have witnessed the rise of garden cities from the digital mist, followed the straight causeways of master engineers, and felt the scale of societies that shaped their world with profound intention. This laser light has been our time machine, peeling back the canopy to reveal a medieval America of staggering complexity, a civilization that thrived in parallel with castles and cathedrals across the ocean. This is more than new history, it is corrected history. It validates the enduring wisdom held in indigenous oral traditions, proving that the deepest knowledge of this land has always been here, waiting for the right moment to be heard. And in their legacy of terra preta soil and managed forests, we find urgent lessons for our own time, a masterclass in building sustainable systems within the bounds of nature. Yet this rediscovered past faces a clear and present danger. The same forces of deforestation that once erased these societies from memory now threaten to erase their physical remains forever, bulldozing millennia of heritage in a season. The race to scan, to document, and to protect is a race against a second, final disappearance. So we are left with a powerful thought. Sometimes the most profound discoveries are not made in uncharted realms or on distant planets. They are hidden in plain sight, just beneath the surface of our assumptions, waiting for a new kind of light to fall upon them. The right perspective can turn a blank space on the map into a civilization, and a simple jungle into a library of human achievement. If this exploration into humanity's lost chapters has captivated you, consider subscribing for more journeys like this one. We would love to hear your thoughts on these revelations in the comments below.